one important thing to keep in mind with chip carving is to let the knife do the cutting and do the work. Sometimes you have to put some force or effort into it if it's a particularly deep chip, and there's relief chips and other things you can do to minimize that. But recognizing that knives only work along the blade, right? I can't cut sideways, and they also don't like to twist. And the first time I was carving this pattern, I was not being careful enough or aware enough of that principle. And I think it was around this section where it goes from kind of a shallow chip to a deeper section around this tight curve. So the knife comes up here, and then as you make this curve, it's going deeper into the wood, which is kind of I'll say a tough or dangerous situation for the knife, because the deeper the knife goes into the wood, the more resistance there is, the less the wood is able to kind of get out of the way and flex the knife. So the knife ends up taking more kind of torsion and twisting on it. And I actually ended up, this is the knife I use now, this was the knife I was using at the time, and they started out being the same shape, the same length, and you can see this one's a lot shorter and has a steeper angle here, because what ended up happening is as I was coming in here and I got to this kind of tight bend and pushing it deep, I was twisting instead of kind of letting the knife edge do the cutting and the splitting the wood, and just being aware of that. I was twisting the knife too much as I went deep to try to get around that turn. Ended up actually snapping the tip of the knife off completely in the bottom of that chip, and I was able to save the blade and still be useful by kind of grinding it down and resharpening the edge to still be a useful knife, but kind of a stubbier one now compared to what it originally was. But so one of the ways that you can avoid that if you end up with a situation like this with the tight kind of outward facing bend as it goes into a deeper part of the chip is what I do when I carved this plate was I didn't try to do it in one motion, is continue this line here and remove this part of the chip, and then in paying attention to the grain direction. So in this situation the grain's going this way, so start here and come this way and remove this part of it, and that just leaves this tiny little bit of wood right here between. I remove this section, I remove this section, there's just a small amount here, so then I can just come and remove that little bit, and all the rest of the wood's out of the way, so as I twist the knife it's going to be able to lift and move that wood out of the way, and it gives me a cleaner cut, and it protects the knife, and it's just a lot easier for me to physically do as well. So sometimes recognizing that the chips, even though it looks like it's one chip, you might need to take several passes and kind of break it up into smaller chips in order to get better results both for the wood and for the knife. And in that or in any other situation, recognizing you want to make sure you're avoiding ever flexing or twisting or bending the knife at all. Make sure that all your forces are coming in the direction of the blade edge as much as possible, and working to avoid if you end up in situations that kind of challenge that geometry.